Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
And I'm Jessica.
Today, we're still in the Easter season.
Yes, we have many more days.
Many more days. So, what Eastery thing are we talking about this time?
Well, today I figured we would talk about the time that St. Thomas was fearless.
All right. So, this might... Maybe this is just me, convert talking here, but I mostly know Thomas for being doubting.
Well, interestingly enough, it's the same story.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure you'll explain how he's fearless. We'll go with the story with what you wanted to do here.
Okay. Well, we're going to read the Gospel of John, chapter 20, 19 through 29. If you were able to watch Mass on TV for Sunday, we read pretty much this.
Okay.
I think there's like a couple extra verses in the Gospel reading for Mass. But...
Gotcha.
All right. When it was late the same day, the first of the week, this happens right after the foot race on Easter Sunday.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Late that day.
Mm-hmm. Though the doors where the disciples gathered had been closed for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be to you." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples therefore rejoiced at the sight of the Lord. He therefore said to them again, "Peace be to you. As the Father has sent me, I send you." When he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Whose sins you have forgiven, they are forgiven. And whose sins you shall retain, they are retained." Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said to him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my fingers in the place of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." And after 8 days, the disciples again were inside, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came, the doors being closed, and stood in their midst, and said, "Peace be to you." Then he said to Thomas, Bring here thy hands and see my hands. Bring here thy finger and see my hands, and bring here thy hand and put it into my side, and be not unbelieving, but believing." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they who have not seen and yet believe."
So doubting Thomas. That's what I heard there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that tends to be the part that everyone pays attention to.
Okay, so you're saying that there's a part in there that most people gloss over and don't notice that paints him as being fearless.
Well, at least less fearful than the others.
Okay.
And also there's the same issues we discussed before of they don't mention every single thing in the Bible.
Okay.
So there's another part that points out that the reason why he said those crazy things about, sticking my finger in hands and stuff probably had to do with what he was told beforehand. So first on to how he is clearly less fearful.
Okay.
When you start at the very beginning, we noted that it was Easter Day.
Yep.
And the disciples were gathered together,
locked
into a room for fear of the Jews.
Okay.
But Thomas wasn't there.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, what you are suggesting, all the other 10 disciples had all gone and locked themselves away in a room somewhere in the hopes that the other Jews would not find them and do to them like had been done to Jesus.
Yes.
But because Thomas wasn't there, he clearly was braver than they were.
I would think so.
Right.
It's possible that he was he drew the short straw and had to go out and do stuff.
Or perhaps he was locked away in a room of his own and just happened to be separate.
We know from the rest of the Bible that in all likelihood, none of the disciples had a place in Jerusalem. The closest is going to be Mary and Martha and Lazarus and Bethany.
Which was still a little ways out, but yeah.
So most Bible scholars believe that essentially
this was the upper room.
Yes,
where
that room they rented from the guy for a Passover. They continue to crash to that place for at least a week because a week later they're in the same room, but Thomas is here.
And then a little while later, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have, this that makes him seem less horrible and doubtful and all the negative things we say about him.
Okay.
And we also have a section that it doesn't say it outright, but it implies that perhaps there's a reason why he came up with the, I'm not going to believe this unless this happens.
Yeah, we didn't actually say this on a video. This was a discussion that we were having ourselves, I think.
Yes.
But I always feel, upon reading, at least this particular reading, that Thomas got a bad rap. Because here we are on Easter night, and Jesus comes and shows the other disciples the holes in his hands and his feet and in his side. And everybody goes and says that because Thomas said he wouldn't believe unless he saw those things, everybody's like, well, he's just way too skeptical. And I've always thought to myself, well, no, they already did it.
Yes. In all probability, he got back from whatever he was doing. Maybe he was in charge of finding food for the group. Maybe he actually knew some other people and was, doing something besides just hiding in a corner. But, they note when Jesus came, he showed them all these things.
Yeah.
So they're going to go and be like, Thomas, you won't believe this, but
he
Jesus
was here.
Came. He was here. He showed us his hands. He showed us his side.
Or he was here. And Thomas is like, are you guys sure you weren't hallucinating? And they're like, no. He showed us the holes in his hands and his feet and in his side. And then he goes and he says, well, unless I can see those, I'm not buying onto this just yet.
Yeah. And it's a group of guys together. So he probably started out with, nah, you guys. And they ratcheted it up. So eventually it's like, all right, fine. If I can put my finger in the hole from the nail.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think he gets a bit of a bad rap. Because, yes, he said he wasn't entirely believing, but everybody else who was believing had already received the evidence that he was looking for. So it's not like they were somehow. It's not like they saw Jesus walking down the street and said, "Nope, there's Jesus. We're good."
Yes, it even gets to the point where he just sees Jesus and he believes.
Yeah.
He didn't actually have to do that.
So it actually does kind of sound more like as if he was simply going and stating for the sake of the group just how serious of a thing he thought it was if this wasn't accurate.
Yes, and even at the end, the part that we all kind of see is, oh, Jesus is chastising Thomas for, I spilled a little water on it, but chastising him because you had to see to believe. Everyone else in that room had already seen to believe.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I'm signaling you out, Thomas, because you have no faith. It's, well, yes, you needed to see some proof, but think of all the people throughout time who will not need the level of proof you required.
Yes.
So anyway, that was my thought on Thomas, because when they were doing the gospel, I immediately, thought about the fact that, line 1 is, everyone's in this room is scared.
But Thomas is not there. So, go down below, hit the like button, and the subscribe and the bell so you get notified tomorrow when our next episode comes out. Unless, of course, you're watching this sometime outside of the season of Easter for the year 2020.
At which point, simply go in at the end of the video, click the playlist that has all of Easter 2020, and you can watch all of them.
Yeah, there you go. Catch up. Mm-hmm. We got a fairly good sized back catalog. You might need to go and put some effort into it. But if you're quarantined, there's lots of time to binge the Popish plot. Mm-hmm. Perhaps re-binge the Popish plot.
Mm-hmm. Go down below and comment with random things about one of the disciples that you noticed in the gospel reading sometime.
Yeah, or whether or not you think that Thomas's assertion that he needed to see something was realistic. Because I think it's... Maybe I'm just a skeptic myself. That wouldn't be all that hard to believe. But, if a whole bunch of my friends were telling me that a person that I knew for a fact to be dead was not dead, I'm going to need a little bit more proof than just their word. Yeah,
I have to imagine if, 10
Even
guys
Even if they
I knew...
told me that they were going to die, but they would come back.
I'm just saying, if I had a group of 10 guys together, I'm gone, and they come back with this unbelievable story, I'm going to assume they're trying to punk me.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it'd be like, where's Ashton? But they didn't have Ashton back then. Anyways, until next time, remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
And share that love. Maybe Thomas was the one who did all the punking.
Thomas is like, have you seen my twin? And we're like, just because your name means it doesn't mean you have one. And then he'd dress up in a, like a very bad disguise and be like, hello, I am Thomas's twin.
I'm pretty sure you look just like Thomas. Nope, Thomas's twin.
We are identical.